Welcome to Roadshow's AutoComplete, your weekly roundup of the biggest news in the automotive world. This week we've got news on McLaren's bonkers new road car, IIHS's new testing mandates, and Honda's new race car. But first, let's start with Chevy's new Tahoe and Suburban. Chevrolet announced the latest generation of its Suburban and Tahoe twins this week, and even though it's getting increasingly tough for many Americans to justify owning such a large SUV, GM's not going to make the choice to switch to another brand easy. The new Bourbon and Tahoe have tons of tech, including a killer interior with a 10-inch touchscreen mounted centrally on the dash. It's also got two phenomenal engine options and one that's pretty okay. Specifically, we mean the 6.2-liter V8 and the 3-liter diesel straight 6, and the 5.3-liter V8 in that order. Not everyone has loved the styling for Chevy's big utes, but it's definitely bolder than in previous generations, and we dig it. So picture this. You're a person of wealth and no small amount of talent behind the wheel of a car. You've decided that it's time to go racing, and because you've always loved Hondas, and, well, because you're not Elon rich, you're looking at the Honda Performance Development race cars. Now, the SITC is just not enough, and the Civic Type R TCR is just way too much money. Previously, you'd have been out of luck at this point, but now Honda is offering a sort of Goldilocks factory race car. And friends, the Civic Type R TC is just right. Coming in at around half the cost of the TCR, the TC offers a seriously cool looking and likely very competitive package for under $100,000. Now, we know that's not cheap, but in race car money, that's barely a drop in the bucket. The TC is available only to racing teams, so you can just go ahead and round file your dreams of ripping one around the streets of your town. IIHS crash testing guidelines and the coveted safety ratings that come from performing well in them are a changin', and it's likely going to mean that automakers are going to struggle a bit to adapt. Specifically, the IIHS Top Safety Pick Awards formerly allowed cars to score a rating of acceptable in the passenger side small overlap safety test. But now, those manufacturers are going to have to snag a good rating if they want to even qualify. Now that may not sound big, but the small overlap is a tough test, and adjusting cars' engineering to perform better will take time and money. Also new is the requirement that a vehicle have automatic emergency braking that works with vehicles and pedestrians, plus headlights have to rate as good or acceptable and be standard equipment to qualify for the Top Safety Pick Plus award. Mercedes' babyest SUV has been around for a few years now, and while we were initially a little skeptical of the GLA, we eventually grew to appreciate it, especially in its surprisingly spirited AMG GLA 45 form. Now, Mercedes is giving us a new GLA, and while it doesn't really look that wildly different from the old one, there's been a lot of changes that should make a serious difference in how the GLA feels. Namely, there's more room inside, better infotainment thanks to MBUX, and more safety tech available than there ever was before. There's even a new, and slightly more tame, AMG version called the GLA 35, and we're really looking forward to spending time with them both. McLaren has been introducing variants of cars like crazy over the past few years, and occasionally we'd imagine that's had some less than ideal consequences for its owners. Specifically, we found out this week that McLaren was introducing a road-going version of the 570S GT4 race car called the 620R, and that it promised to be the gnarliest sports series Macca ever. This announcement likely peed in the Wheaties of more than one 600LT owner, but that won't stop us from being stoked about the sub-3,000-pound, 611 horsepower road rocket. McLaren is going to build 300 of them and sell them for $299,000, so if you want one, you better act fast. Odds are good that if you know the name Gordon Murray, it's because of his work on the legendary McLaren F1 road car, or maybe it's through his involvement in Formula One as a successful car designer for Brabham and later McLaren. It's been a while since we've had the pleasure of seeing a brand new ultra-high-performance vehicle from Mr. Murray though, but that wait might be over soon. His firm has introduced the T50 hypercar, and it can be seen as a spiritual successor to the McLaren F1. The car is meant as kind of a love letter of sorts to the analog supercars of days past, and features a manual transmission, lightweight, a naturally aspirated engine, and most surprisingly, a giant fan in the rear that actively sucks the car to the road. Yes, you heard that correctly. The best part is that they plan to reveal the car at an event in May. People have been giving the Jaguar I-Pace guff for not being able to compete with the likes of Tesla in the range department since it was launched. And that's despite the fact that nobody really competes with Tesla effectively on that metric. Still, the I-Pace is cool and it's pretty nice to drive, so it's not as if it had nothing going for it. Thankfully though, Jaguar's engineers haven't been content to just weather people's criticism. Instead, they decided to do something about it. So they went to one of the last places that you'd think of for an increased EV range, the racetrack. Jag's engineers took data gleaned from the brand's one-make I-Pace racing series that has acted as a support race for Formula E and found new efficiencies that worked out to about an extra 12 miles of range. That brings the total range of the I-Pace to 234 miles, and while that's not exactly Model S territory, it ain't bad in the real world. People can't get enough of the Tesla Cybertruck, so we weren't surprised when Elon Musk, ever the showman, decided to take it out earlier this week for a spot of dinner at the famous Nobu restaurant in Malibu. Cool, right? Yeah, except that all the criticism about a lack of mirrors and cameras and stuff on the Cybertruck seemed to be totally valid because Musk managed to run over a parking lot sandwich board on his way out of the lot and onto Pacific Coast Highway. Was it serious? Nope. Was it embarrassing? You bet your ass it was. We bet Tesla's engineers are hard at work already increasing visibility on the truck. That's it for AutoComplete this week. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay notified of all new videos on Roadshow, and we'll see you again next week.